Hey y'all, so we're coming back on. Coasters are beautiful. Look at how good they look. I think they are done. If you wanted, you could paint the bottoms. I'm not gonna worry about it. That's just part of the crafting, I think, in my opinion. So beautiful coasters. Of course, this is just our parchment paper that protected our tray, but I'll tell you what I did. I did a little thing. I caught some more silicone mats on sale, so I just went ahead and picked up a set of 3, and they fit perfectly. Not perfectly, but they fit nicely in these trays, so that's what I'm going to use. So here's our leveling table. I just put it down so I can put my tray on top of it. 1, it brings a little bit of height for us with the tutorial, but 2, it's going to allow us to make sure that the tray is also level. So, alright, so I'm going to use that tray with our tray that we're making. Now, a couple little pieces from, I think, the coasters just fell in this, so I'm just going to flip it up and kind of do a little shakeroo to shake that stuff out. So, this is the tray we're going to be working on. We're going to be building the layers on it. Hopefully get the next layer situated in it and so forth. Okay? Then I'm going to clear off my other tray over here and put another silicone mat on it to put our handles basically for this tray that we're working on, and if we have extra resin, whatever mold we decide to pour into, we'll put on this tray. So just kind of a rotation situation for us. I'm going to clear one more spot so that I can put things down as needed. Just bring all this stuff back in so that it's out of my way, but also contained. Okay, that will give me enough room to move and switch trays as we need, essentially. Alright, so big thing is we gotta get the resin mixed so that can start doing its thing, doing its thing. So, put some gloves on. Turn on little air filter. Oh, these gloves are smart. Okay. Might need to stretch them a little bit here. We're going to get it though. Grab some new ones out of my stash and refilled my container that's over in my craft area. Oh yeah, I'm going to take my watch off because with the tassels of this band, I like these band, but the tassels on it are likely to get in the resin. Alright. Are you ready? I think we might be ready, folks. We're going to just move this baby out of our way into the spot that I cleared. So looky there. And then I'm going to shift our lights a little bit because I want to pull, oh, I bumped you. I want to pull out our mixing tool because, as I learned the last time, it's just easier, right? Okay. So we're going to go into that, but we're going to pour into the 2 smaller ones for the sake of measuring, and then we'll transfer to the bigger container, so forth. Alright, so I'm going to pour some B. This is Artist Resin, thin viscosity, the same we used the last round. I'm probably going to do, let's do 70 of each. I think that will be good. Kind of lean between 60 and 80, so why not right in between and do 70? That seems reasonable, right? That's what I'm thinking. And when you do it this way, it helps because you can, if you end up over pouring one, you can either transfer it back in or add to your other one without having to do a ton of messing around, which this one got just a smidge over 70. I'm going to take it to 75 and I'll add to B. It came out faster than I was expecting today. It's warmer in the craft space, so that is definitely a positive when it comes to our A getting mixed up. And truthfully, B is almost at 75. It's not going to take much to get it to the 75. Has it settled? Like a very tiny amount. Yep. But now that I'm looking at A, it is right at 80. Okay. As it settled into our cup. So let's just bring this one on up. Again, counterculture DIY resin is 1-to-1 ratio by volume, not by weight. So just look at your resin, make sure you know what its measuring type is. It's a 1-by-1. Is it by weight? Is it by volume? I got a little bit of uncured, like either part A or B on my gloves, so I'm just going to take a little bit of the rubbing alcohol, my paper towel, and wipe that off so that I'm not all sticky everywhere. Huh. B is now a little higher than A. Okay. Well, we're going to do a little pour back on that. I don't think it's going to take much. And we might have went the opposite direction. We're pretty good. Let's give that just a second to settle in and hope that that's more accurate. You want your measurements to be as accurate as possible, because if not, the resin is not going to cure properly. So, all right, I like to get B in my mixing container first. It's just the way I roll, you know. I find that B helps coat the mixing cup and makes A mix better. It's just what I have found. Could all be a myth. Could all be in my head. Who knows, right? Who knows? That's what I say. No real telling, but it's what I have found that works for me. All right. Then, we got all that out, about as much as we can. So then we'll put A in, and get as much of that in as we can as well. As you notice, I scraped my tool, my popsicle stick, my plastic popsicle stick on the side of the container. That just helps make sure that we're getting all of it off our popsicle stick. You can do all 4 sides. Whoops, don't spill your cup, because that would not be fun. And then I just keep, you know, scraping the edges of the mixing cup to get every little last bit that we can. Because again, it's key for it to have even parts for it to mix properly and cure properly. And if we don't want to have a flop of a piece, that is key. But also what I would tell you is it's like the bubbles. Don't over focus on it, because if you over focus, you're going to start messing yourself up. That's just how it is. Alright, so this has a big silicone popsicle stick that goes in here. We want to position it as far back as we can so that it's going to catch the edge as much as possible as it mixes. And you have to twist both sides so that it stays sort of even and doesn't try to pull that number where it's popping up. And then a little on button. I went to look at my watch, which it's not on me. So let's see. Okay, about 3-ish minutes is what we're going to mix it and watch that. I'm going to go ahead with that little bit of paper towel that I had that had the rubbing alcohol on. I'm just going to go ahead and wipe off that tool, and I'm going to go ahead and wipe out my cups because these will not cure up. This is raw resin, we should say, meaning it's part A and part B that are not mixed together, so it's not going to cure. You know, it's the raw part of A and B, and if they're not mixed, it's not going to cure. Plus, we want to reuse our silicone cups, so we want them nice and clean. So cleaning them is always a must. Now, you could do this at the end, but where I have that hand mixing it for me, I'm just going to go ahead and get these cleaned up. That way it's done, because I don't love the cleaning part, you know. And I keep doing something during this time, because otherwise I will get bored and distracted, which is not beneficial to any of us. Alright, those are clean. Yay! Alright, so we are going to add some colors in today. I'm excited about that. That's only been spinning for about a minute, which is crazy to think about, really, when you're, you know, going at it. Alright, the weather here has been changing so much. It's crazy. I am going to be using some dispersion colors. This is Flamingo. It doesn't have a nozzle yet on it, so I'm going to go ahead and add a nozzle to it. Because, you know, we want that. There's probably enough, honestly, in this lid. It's going to give us most of the color we need. I'm going to use some paper cups today because I feel like they give me a little bit more control, especially when we go with our colors. The other dispersion color that I've picked out is this sky blue. It definitely needs mixed. The colorant is separated from whatever the formula is in there, kind of like a paint can. The colorant can mix. So last time we used like a magenta and it was completely solid, if you recall. This is definitely more fluid, and this is the way it should be in theory. We will probably also use some of our tsunami color again because it's stunning, because why not? I'm just trying to gather these. I might use a little of this blue sapphire as well. And then I've got this blue lilac armor art and this pearl green. Look at those. Armor art. And then we still have our alcohol inks if we want to use them. And I've got our mica powders if we decide to use them. I don't remember, did we use teal? Or did we use that blue sapphire? I think it was this teal. Okay, this has probably been mixing long enough now that yep, it's been mixing about 4 minutes, give or take. So, we turn it off. And if you do this right, your screws stay on there. It does like to suction your cup in. And then I always go ahead and give it a few extra stirs by hand. Yes, we have lots of bubbles, but I'm looking to make sure that the resin is truly mixed and that we don't have any leftover stringy pieces, which would tell me that it hasn't mixed and it's looking good. So voila, let's put this baby back up here if we can. It's not, the cord is not wanting to slide in between. There we go. Okay, and I'm gonna let this just kind of set for a few minutes while we finish prepping so that we can let some of those bubbles rise on it. Rise up, bubbles, rise up. Okay, there's something there, but maybe not. Okay, look at this beautiful tray. I'm so excited. Oh, I forgot to grab the leveling tray underneath, because the leveling tray is round. And the tray is almost as wide as the leveling table. I just didn't catch it being under there. The first thing we're gonna end up doing is pouring a clear layer in this, and then we will start adding our colorants. But we're really going to, I know I have a lot of colors, we're gonna really make those colors very stringy and very thin, because ultimately what I want is I want us to give it a 3D effect and be able to see further in. Now the handles are probably going to get more of the colorant just because, you know, they're going to mix anyway. It's not going to be a big deal kind of thing. I do see like where a bubble had happened over here on the edge. I'm going to see if it had popped, which it hadn't. So I went ahead and popped it, because then what's going to happen is enough clear should fall into that hole and kind of help seal that up, which will be nice too. Alright, so as you can see, we have lots of bubbles. And that's okay at this phase because we're expecting them. And we're going to hit them with a little bit of heat and pop those surface bubbles. So just a little bit of heat, pop some of them. Just as fine. You don't want to go too crazy at this stage. I'm not super worried about it. Okay, so I am going to go all the way around the edge, because I really want this clear to hit up to the edge. And then I'm going to do some in between. And we're going to watch that resin just naturally self-level itself out. And I'm glad that I mixed as much as I mixed, because we are probably going to need more than that at the end of the day. And we're not going to mix much color, because this tray is a lot bigger than I accounted for. But that's okay. So we might not even do our handles today, truthfully. It may just be full on. And we may not do all these colors just because it is not as much resin. Next time I will probably mix just as much, if not a smidge more, to finish this tray off. That's going to be my thought. And that's fine. You know, you could pre-measure, you could add rice to your mold and determine about how much resin you need. I mean, I've done that, and don't get me wrong, it's not a bad thing. I just don't usually go that planned, I guess. So, alright, I am going to scrape this tool off of our resin. This one definitely has 4 sides to it, just because it's a thicker silicone stir stick. So I definitely try to get all the sides as much as I can. And I'm going to use our handy dandy paper towel that we have with rubbing alcohol already on it and wipe that off. Okay, so now we've got some bubbles happening, which is fine. We're going to hit those with a little bit of heat. You'll notice that I'm moving my hand back and forth, or my wrist back and forth as I move my hand across the piece. That's just to help keep the heat from hitting one spot of the resin all at one area, because you don't want to scorch your resin. So it's just like a blow dryer. You know, if you're blow drying your hair, you don't want all that heat hitting one spot of your scalp. Well, it's not fun. So, because it scorches your scalp. So we just move back and forth. I'm still seeing bubbles popping. I don't know if that's going to transfer on the video so much, but I'm seeing bubbles coming up and still popping across this, so that's why I'm still going. But as you see, I'm not spending too much time in one area, moving around, so forth. Now, if this was a smaller mold, I could pick the mold up and kind of do some popping of the mold onto the mat to help shift some of those up as well. But because it's a bigger mold, I'm not going to be able to do that. But I'm going to do this. Just nice and gentle. That helps shift those bubbles too. And I do see them still rising. We're going to let that set for a minute anyway while we, I'm going to try to move over so that you guys can see while we mix up some color. Okay. So obviously we don't have a ton of clear to mix in with colorant, so we're going to use this wisely. I am going to mix this flamingo that I had on my stir stick. Now I want this to have a little less translucent look to it, so I'm going to add more. It wasn't quite enough colorant for what I was going for, so we'll mix a little bit more in that. There we go. That's coming to the consistency that I wanted. You do want to make sure you mix it all the way around, multiple directions. But see, now it's not so translucent. It's definitely got more of a solid color, and that's what I wanted. Luckily, it doesn't take much resin or much of the colorant for it to get mixed. So like this has quite a bit in the cap. It's probably not going to be enough, but it definitely has some in it that we can use. Probably kind of silly of me, but you know, whatevs. We do our thing. No judgment here. Alright. There we go. Let's get a little bit of this colorant in. Oh, okay. Let's get a lot of that colorant. Oopsie. That was a little bit more colorant than I was expecting to do. The flamingo took a lot longer to come out. Sky blue did not take as long to come out, so when I squeezed it, it was there. That's okay. Looks good. I'm just setting those off to the side for us. I should have just grabbed a bunch of these stir sticks and had them handy, but that would have been smarts of me. I'm going to grab these little runners off. Let's see here. Let's do a little bit of this purple sapphire. Oh, wow. This blue sapphire. Wow. That is a blue if I ever saw one. But it is like deep, deep blue. I'm going to add a little bit more resin to that. Thin it out a little bit. Just because I don't know how much more we're going to get use-wise, but we're okay. There's more in here than you think there is when it comes down to it. Alright. Look at that. This one is just so pretty. I definitely want some more of this in this piece. It's so pretty. And then our blue that I helped with adding a little bit more resin, I wanted to make sure that I mix that. Okay. Let's see about getting some of this green in. I'm going to see if I have to open this bottle up. It feels pretty. Yuppers. Felt pretty thick in there, so I'm just going to use a longer stir stick to go in and sort of stir that up because it's separated. Doesn't really have what we want. Try to grab some of that colorant on it. Try not to drip that onto my piece. I know you guys can't really see where I'm at right now, but I will come back into view, I promise. Okay. So it's kind of like that magenta. I'm not loving my armor arts right now, you know. They're not doing it for me. I mean, I think they're just, I got them on clearance and they've gotten probably in my craft space way too long. I don't want to admit how long they've probably sat here. So I don't think it's per se the brand or anything of that nature. I think it's, honestly speaking, just my inability to use them timely is going to be my guess. Let's see if this one is any better. I'm just going to take the lid off of it because it's easier for me to see it. Oh yeah, see? So it's just all dried and stringy. I'm just going to toss it. As much as that pains me, we're just going to garbage those. Okay, that's fine. Let's finish up with some mica to give us some definition in here. I am going to get my popsicle stick back since I'm going to be scraping as much as I can out in here. Actually, I'm not going to take all the resin. I'm going to leave just a little bit. It's not much, but I'm going to leave a little bit because we might have some left over to do the handles. And I want to have a little bit of clear just to put in there. Not that it will stay clear, but it does help with our colors. Alright, so now it's going to be time to definitely get this piece rolling. Rolling. Now I typically say 3 to 5 minutes letting the resin set. It's probably been approximately that. I didn't look at the clock, but you know, I do all my colorants, mixing. That takes time, so I feel like that's a good point. And I'll be able to tell when I hit it with the heat gun kind of where we're at. I see some more bubbles that have come up, so I definitely want to hit with the heat gun. And again, just going around. And again, this is about how, like, resin is about, like, watching it in a way and knowing, once you've played with it more, you'll kind of know, oh, that's about the thickness or the consistency that I want the resin to be at when I start adding my color. Or I want it to be a little thicker. Or, ooh, I maybe let that go too long, kind of thing. So don't be afraid to play. Don't be afraid to have failures, because how else do we learn? You know, I have taken pieces too far and it's been disastrous. But a lot of times, even with those disaster pieces, you can get them, like, you can do something that helps bring them back a little bit. So with this layer, I am just not being consistent with my strokes and such, and I'm doing very fine especially with this blue. It's so deep of a blue. I don't want it to overpower the rest, which is why I did it first, because I want some of those other colors to shine through. And if I did this on top, it's gonna overtake for sure. And as you see, it's not anything consistent, because it's not gonna stay these true consistent lines. It's gonna change. This one, I'm gonna try, it's thin enough that I'm gonna just try to do, like, you know, again, it's not consistent, y'all. Like, you don't have to make it be perfect. We're gonna be moving this around, we're gonna be changing it. It does not need to look like a finished product, because that looks like a 3-year-old did it. So nothing wrong with a 3-year-old, but you know, not the look that I'm going for. So we just trust the process, and I'm just basically, as you can see, just looping, making lines, getting this color in here, getting the color transferred into the container. I'm just like, okay, are you gonna come? This is getting thick. This is because of the color it is anyway. We're probably not gonna per se notice it, but it's gonna give it a little bit of a shimmer. Just with as thin as I'm doing it, it's probably gonna kind of blend itself in. And I'm gonna use all of this one right now, just to get it used. And then move on from that, since it was kind of our one. It was kind of the, well, we tried, we came, we did it, we tried it, didn't quite work out how we wanted, that's fine, kind of thing. So, and I'm not worried about cleaning off this tool specifically, because I mean, I'm going to clean it off. I'm just not at this stage cleaning it off, because honestly speaking, there's a lot of that colorant still on it, and I'm afraid if I try to scrape it into the piece that we're going to end up with a glob that just doesn't cure, and I don't want that. I want it to actually have a chance to cure for us. Alright, I think this is my last color that I have not used. It's actually, oh, kind of am liking the look that it's giving at the moment. But, ooh, we dropped a piece of paper, got stuck to the bottom of my cup. Let's just drag you out of there and right to the trash. Perfect. See? Things happen. I want to put a little bit of this blue in that pink. But again, I'm not going crazy with this blue because it is so strong of a color. I'm thinking that's about what we're going to do. I'm going to pull it to the side for just a few minutes while we pour into our handles, and then we'll hit this with a little bit more heat and potentially move that resin around a little bit. I don't think we're going to have extra resin. Like, we're probably going to have enough resin to do our handles and maybe not all of our handle, if that makes sense. I'm using that blue to go into the like parts that are going to hold the screw, just to get it used, because that's not going to be a part that you're going to per se see so much because it's you would have to see it on the side. Just as a filler. Not that I don't like it. Don't get me wrong. It's a pretty blue. It's just, it is definitely a deep color. A heavy color. Which is fine. I just wasn't quite expecting that, I guess. Expecting a little bit more purple in it. And I'm just doing little wispy layers of our colors, and then I'm going to add what I can of the clear, and then we'll layer again. Again, it's a piece of art, so there's not going to be, it's not like you're drawing something and you need it to have a certain look. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to have a certain shape, it doesn't have to have a certain shade, it's going to be what it be. And that's what's going to happen. So, and don't get me wrong, people draw art that maybe isn't, but what I'm meaning is, like, if you're trying to draw a specific house or a specific flower or animal, you know, you are going for a certain shape or a certain look. This, with resin, nothing is guaranteed. Even if you do everything correctly, it's going to turn out different. You will never have two pieces the same, even if you're making them at the same time. Like coasters, you can use the same exact technique, but it could be just a little bit different. Just because maybe you added a little bit more colorant or color of the one bit of resin to one coaster, or the timing of when you added that resin was, you know, 30 seconds later. It's gonna react different. So that makes resin super unique. Okay, I have scraped this baby about as much as we can. So we're going to set that to the side and work on getting the rest of our resin out of these cups. And then we'll look at our tray again. And the good thing is like, we're going to have to pour more resin, so this isn't the end all be all for the handles either. Although they got pretty far. They're not going to quite be full and done, but they're pretty close. And if you put your tool down into the resin a little bit like I'm doing, that helps pull. It's like a magnet. Resin likes to be with resin. It likes to be with itself. So it pulls itself together and it self-levels. So by doing that, that helps get some of this off of the tool as well. And I probably do a little bit more than I need to with it, but it's just, that's just who I am. I like to get every last bit. Start stacking my cups together. Let's see. Can we just pour a lot of this so that I don't have to? We might end up with pretty full handles. There's a chance. And I do have to remind myself, don't get too caught up in this detailing and forget about my tray over there, because we don't want that to go past its prime of moving the resin. So we're just gonna have to be conscious of that. I do like that sky blue. It's really pretty. Doop, doop, doop. There wasn't much of this, and boy, has it gotten thicker. For sure. For sure, for sure, for sure. So, I'm going to tell you guys, like, I'm crafting during the day on the weekend. It's so abnormal of me, but it has been a week of just peopling, and my people battery, as my daughter calls it, is done. So I told my husband, I was like, for my sanity, I am going to go work on this tray that I'm working on, and then we can have lunch, and then we can do chores, you know, then we can do the household stuff. But I need to recharge my battery for sure. So don't forget to do that if that's what you need. This is what I would consider self-care for me, is getting in the craft space. And because I record tutorials, it also makes me feel a little bit less guilty, because I want to have material for my channel. And so, you know, sometimes with self-care, we tend to, well, I'm being selfish, which, by the way, you're not being selfish if you're taking care of yourself, because you can't pour from an empty cup. But, you know, if you're here and you watch me, you know that I recently was diagnosed, recently as in like a year ago, diagnosed with ADHD, and that I have masked it really well for 40 years, and now am learning how to manage it a little bit more. And with that, ADHDers, at least me as an ADHDer, I definitely give myself a lot of guilt and grief about things. And so self-care, a lot of times I'm like, oh, that's selfish of me to take that time. And I know that it's not, and in my head I know that it's not. However, I will still tell myself that story, that I'm being selfish taking the time. So by me doing tutorials, I feel like I'm being productive, and it's giving me self-care and being productive, which means I feel less guilty, right? So find what it is that helps you navigate your self-care. If it's like me, you need an excuse, you need to have that feeling of that you're being productive, start a YouTube channel. Don't worry about followers. Don't worry about, you know, if people like it or not. Do it for you. And if that's what motivates you to take care of yourself, then do that. You know, you have to have enjoyment. And that's a fact. Alright, so as you saw, I just didn't want to stop that conversation. As you saw, I brought the tray back over, and I am hitting with some heat, popping some bubbles, also working to move some of this resin around. It's done some on its own, and it's doing some blooming on its own, which is really pretty. Still a little bit too 3-year-old-esque, I guess, to me. So I'm trying to manipulate it a little bit to make it a little less 3-year-old-esque. And by doing that, I'm just slowly moving the heat gun until I see the resin starting to separate itself and move. And that helps those lines just become a little bit more not linear. And also allows us to see some of the underneath colors, but also, like, there's that deep blue, helps move that around, as you see. And it's a slow process. I'm not on a high setting. You could go to a higher setting, but you're going to then have hotter, and then it's going to make your resin cure faster, and you risk the chance of having a flash curing situation, and we don't want that. So I do like how right here it's doing kind of a wispy thing on its own, and over here on the edge with that sky blue. I'm debating on if I like it like that. If I like it like that. Or if I'm wanting to run a tool through it just to give it a little more shimmy, shimmy. Yes. Okay, this is just a silicone brush. It's more of a flatter one, but I'm going to use it as like side. And I'm not going to wipe it off in between, because I don't feel like it needs that for this piece. I went over one of those like big bubbles that are in that tray. That felt weird. Now with this piece, because we've already laid resin down, I wouldn't be worried about using a metal tool. Because we've laid the resin already down, I'm not hitting the mold. But the silicone, I just work really well with the silicone as is, so I just chose that to be the tool that I'm using. And if you notice, I go one way, you know, and then I go the opposite direction with the next line, just to give us some different depth or different movement of that resin. And then I went, you know, I made us a checkered, but I don't want it to full on be checkered, so I'm gonna kind of do a thing where I go, you know, at an angle, because I really am just trying to get a different look. I haven't quite obtained the look that I'm going for, so we just kind of keep working it. But I have to know that, hey, I don't have a ton of time, because that resin is starting to kind of set. It's not bad yet, but it is going to start. And I don't want to be too mixed. Like, I don't want it to become a muddy mess. You know what I mean? So now I'm going to take my heat gun and help disperse some of that checkered look line. Just by coming through. It always takes a couple moments, a minute, like not even minutes, but just a little bit, you know, to get things moving. But once you get it going, you'll see that, oh, it's moving. I knew there was a big old bubble over there too, so I wanted to hit it, and I did. It popped. I almost liked it better when I just did left to right, but you know what? It is what it is now. It is gonna be what it be. I don't feel like we're seeing much of our color underneath. Maybe we are, though. Okay, this angle. I'm going to do our lines with our heat gun. That's what I'm going to do. Go left to right. I'm liking it more. Sometimes this is again where you just have to like trust the process and like I think on the fly a little bit with it of like, okay, I'm gonna do this. Oh well, now I'm gonna do this. Well, I don't love that, so I'm gonna do this. And then slowly we get the look maybe hopefully that we're going for. I mean, I like the lines to an extent, but I also want it to not have such the lines, if that makes sense. Silicone. Because it's giving it a very checkered look, and I don't want it to have that kind of consistency. I'm just going to keep somewhat moving. Okay, I think that's pretty good. We're going to let that sit for a few minutes while we take a look at our handles, and then we'll take another look at it. Let's see here. Oh yeah. For some reason we're really flowing that way, so what I might do is just flip it this way. I think it's because it's curved. It's automatically the way this mold is. It's going that way, which is fine. I just want to make sure that we don't have it overflow. Now we're going to hit it with a little bit of heat, get these bubbles that are up here. I'm going to also hit this with some rubbing alcohol just to spritz, just because of the way this particular mold is. I don't want a bunch of air bubbles at the top. So I'm going to hit it with that. It is moving around and I do like that. Now, because I'm going to go down into the sides, I do want to make sure that I'm using my silicone brush and not a pointy brush, because you would scratch up your mold if you did this with a pointed end. So, not that it matters, but I'm going to just clean up our edges a little bit. And I'm just kind of going up and down just to mix that sides up. Also release any bubbles that are in there. Now, obviously I'm not going down into the legs of these. I'm going to call them the legs. Where the handle legs are, but hopefully no crazy bubbles, and nobody's going to be sitting there looking at your tray from the side. So if there are bubbles in there, they're just going to be bubbles in there. It be what it be at this point. Like, that's just what it is. Now this would all cure up and peel right off. Like, you don't have to do this. Yeah, I'm just being a little OCD weird about it. Okay, that's all. Don't mind me. If you feel the need to do this, then do it. If you don't feel the need to do it, then don't do it. There's a chunk of clear resin. We're going to pop back into our mold. Okay. Spritz it with some rubbing alcohol, right? Here is my spray. This is just from the Dollar Tree. It's got rubbing alcohol in it. And as you see, the resin like kind of reacts to that rubbing alcohol. That's going to help pop some of those micro bubbles that might be forming. This is really pretty up here. I don't know how well y'all can see it just from the standpoint of, you know, video doesn't ever give it full justice, but man, that looks pretty. Ooh, I do see a big old bubble in that one leg. Well, now that seen it, I kind of want to get it. I'm using a pointed silicone brush so that I could get all the way in there and actually pull that bubble out, or pop it at least. So that was nice and deep in there because it was all the way at the bottom of that leg. Now it's got me curious. Now I can't not look. Okay, that's the only one that I see. It was very obvious that there wasn't resin sitting at the bottom in a spot. Like, it was clear that that was definitely a bubble. So, but these look good. I'm going to just let them do their thing. I'm not going to hit them with any more heat. I'm moving them back and forth just a little bit to make that resin move just a smidge. But I really like those. Those are gorgeous. Beautiful. Alright, flippity floppity, our tray and our candles. I wish I had some clear resin that I could just plop right in the middle, push this around a little. But I don't. So, next best thing is going to be, I don't want to do too much more heat because I feel like we're pushing it up a little. starting to lose the race, and I just have to be careful because I'm pretty close to the resin to not dip my heat gun in the resin. I kind of like that now. That kind of just gave it a more clear, and I can see some of the colors that we originally poured from the first layer really coming through, which is what I wanted. I don't know what I've done here, y'all, but I guess just adding more heat and letting that resin shift a little more has kind of helped. I probably should have probably did one small amount of casting cloth just to help that bloom a little more, but you know, I will say the dispersion colors are thicker and the mica is pretty thick, so it's kind of doing its thing. Yeah, I like that. We're gonna have another layer over the top, so that's not our final layer. Our next layer, I probably am gonna lay clear, and then I'm gonna pick. I say this, I'm like, I'm gonna do 2 to 3 colors. I'm gonna be really small, and I'll end up with 5. But truly, I'm gonna try to keep myself to 2 to 3 colors, and I'm gonna like spiral them in real thin, but like kind of giving them a spiral look, or maybe multiple spiral looks, like 1, 2. Oops, I just put my hand in the resin. 2, 3, 4, maybe like 5 spirals, and then potentially just like, I don't know. I'm either going to do that, or I'm going to do more of the thicker wispy colors and then top it off. We'll see. Let's see how this sets up and see what I decide. Okay, let's do that. I think that's a good idea. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, right? Okay, so cleanup. Paper cups are the best because these are just going to go in the garbage. Voila, we're done. No more needed. This is a little bit more fun because it's all sticky now. It's all gross. I'm going to put a little bit of rubbing alcohol down in there just to help start breaking some of that down. And then paper towel. I'd already used this paper towel, either to wipe gloves or wipe a tool off. So it's already got some rubbing alcohol, but I added a little bit more, and I'm going to use it just to get this first awful layer that's on there, essentially. And this is my least favorite part, just so y'all know. So it's good to have you here because guess what? It motivates me to get through it. Now, I'm very particular. I do like my tools to be clean, so don't get me wrong. I just hate cleaning them. That makes sense. Like, I like my dishes to be clean, but I hate doing dishes. You know? You feel that? That's what I'm saying. Like, okay. Alright, then we're going to get some more paper towels because we're going to need them. And I basically start with lots of rubbing alcohol, and then just, you know, I wipe that one pretty good, so I know that it's probably done, but next time I get a fresh paper towel, I'll run over it one more time just to make sure. Silicone resists the resin, so it doesn't stick to the resin. When it gets hard, you can peel it off. Problem is I scrape and use my tools so much and get as much resin off of them that then it just leaves this thin layer of resin, and that is harder to peel off the silicone. So I find doing this step helps get the resin off and take that thin layer of resin off so that these are good and fresh to go going forward. Now, some colorants will stain your silicone. You're not going to be able to get that off, but the goal is to get the actual resin off. So, you know, because what you don't want to happen is have a thin layer of resin stuck on a tool, and when you mix next time, that thin layer drips into your resin project. Have fun. Okay, so this probably has some resin residue on it, but this cup is nice and sticky, so having a little bit of resin on my paper towel is not going to hurt the cup any more than what it already is. So I'm going to use it just to get that first layer out of there, basically. And then we start the process all over again. Paper towel, rubbing alcohol. Rubbing alcohol I get from Amazon, although their spouts are awful. No offense to Amazon. So this is an Equate bottle from Walmart. Not sponsored by either. Well, I guess Amazon. If you use one of my links in my videos, those I could potentially earn a little commission. It's not much. But I use this Equate bottle, and I've had this Equate bottle for many, many years, and it's still in great condition. And as you see, I touch it while my gloves are covered. It's got colorant on it. It's got thin layers of resin on it. It doesn't matter. I even put a little vinyl from a project that failed. As you can see, it peels right there because it was a fail project. Yeah, but this spout is the best spout. So it takes about 1.5 container of the ones I get from Amazon to fill it. And when it gets low, I just add more from the Amazon bottles, and then I have this handy dandy spout part. Now I wish this cap would fit on the Amazon bottles, and then I would just transfer it, but that's not that easy. You know, thought would have made my life easier, but that's okay. And it's a good size. I mean, it's 32 ounce, but it's not so big that you can't pick it up and handle it really well. So I do like that. See, we're getting all this off of there. These are pretty much done. I can tell you, like, and you'll just know the feel from working them. And then the silicone just, I mean, the rubbing alcohol just dries right off the silicone. It doesn't take but a couple minutes. Those are dry and could be put back in their containers. So that's the good thing about them. I think I'm going to move some things around, although I don't know if what I want to move is going to fit where I want it to go, y'all. That's the thing. I was just thinking it would make more sense to have certain things in a spot where I'm not bumping the lights. I'm still working out the lighting however many years later with my YouTube channel. Well, it's only been a little over a year, but I'm still trying to kind of navigate the best lighting in this corner that I'm in. Okay, so almost there. I think my tools are pretty good. I don't know if I swiped that one a second time, so I'll just do it really quick before I do my, just to make sure. And this, truthfully, where I get that first big chunky layer out, and then a couple more just round and round, it feels pretty good. I tried to make sure that I come up on all the edges, just because there is a little lip where the measuring lines are. And then I like to get the outside, because it does drip down, resin does, on the outside. Not that that's going to affect you for the next project, unless you're hanging your cup over your project and a piece of that peels off and falls off. It's more just keep my cup clean so that I'm not handling it and getting it stuck to my gloves. And then, yeah, let that dry, which it practically is dry. There probably is a thin layer around those numbers, but I've never had an issue with it. I also like to just take, this is a silicone mat from Counterculture DIY. One of my favorite shopping places. But I just use that last paper towel to kind of just wipe off the silicone. Some of that's on there from previous projects, so I'm not worried about getting it clean, but it just a little bit better. Let's bring our tray up so y'all can see. I like what it's done. I'm happy. I was worried for about 5 minutes, but now those lines that I made aren't really there, and it looks very natural to me. I like that deep blue in there. Yeah. And I was worried that the bottom colors weren't coming through, but I have to remember I didn't do any gold this time. And I'm still seeing lots of gold. Also, this really bright pink, I didn't do any of it, so I'm seeing it. Now this is probably more that dispersion flamingo color, but there's some of that underneath pink that we had. There's little patches of it, so that makes me feel a lot better. Now, a lot of times what I'll do so that there's no dust flying into my piece while it's curing, or heaven forbid, like a little gnat, fly, bug, something, I will put my finger's not wanting to open up properly. I will put a little net, like it's a food, no, but this one is being very weird. I don't know what is going on with it, but it's being really crooked, but that's okay. I'll just put like this little food net over it so that it stays covered and nothing drops in it accidentally. So there we go. It's really being weird. Something didn't form correctly on that, but I ain't gonna worry about it. It's there, and I've got others. They're cheap. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them at the Dollar Tree. You know, don't stress about cost-wise on that one, because they are really cheap for the benefit that they are. You'll save yourself some heartache for sure by having them. All right, y'all. Well, that was another round of this everlasting series that we are working on. Hope you guys are enjoying it, and I will see you guys again soon. Hope everybody's doing good, and have a great week. Don't forget your self-care, whatever that might look like for you. Talk to you guys later. Bye.